The sound wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was soft, almost afraid. Yet it split the silence of my small apartment like lightning through a clear sky. My eyes snapped open, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might wake the entire building. For a moment, I didn't move. I lay there staring at the ceiling, convinced exhaustion had finally started playing tricks on my mind. But then I heard it again, my name breathed gently, urgently, as if carried by regret and hope at the same time. In that instant, everything I had buried for years began clawing its way back to the surface. Before this story pulls you any further, I want to pause for just a second. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of forgiveness, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need it, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel Touch of Kindness. Your support keeps stories like this alive. I never thought my life would circle back to that night, but sometimes the past doesn't knock, sometimes it opens the door itself. My name is Elias Morwen. I was 34 then, living alone in a modest apartment above a bakery that filled my mornings with the smell of bread and my afternoons with a reminder that warmth existed somewhere beyond my walls. During the day, sunlight spilled generously through my windows, painting the floors gold. Neighbors passed by smiling, kids laughed outside, and the world looked ordinary, even hopeful. But inside me something had been missing for years. I functioned. I worked as an architectural draftsman. I paid my bills. I smiled when expected. Yet there was a hollow space in my chest that daylight never quite reached. The reason for that emptiness had a name I hadn't spoken out loud in a long time. Her name was Celine Arkwright. Years ago we had shared a life built from quiet mornings and long walks, shared dreams and whispered promises. She was the kind of person who remembered small details, who believed. People were mostly good even when the world tried to prove otherwise. I was more cautious, more reserved. Shaped by loss I never learned how to explain. We loved each other deeply, but love alone doesn't always survive silence. When my father died suddenly, something inside me shut down. I didn't ask for help. I didn't lean on her. I retreated, convinced that pain was something to endure alone. Celine tried to reach me. I know she did. She tried with patience, with tears, with hope. And I failed her by building walls instead of bridges. The day she left, the sun was bright, the kind of day that mocked heartbreak by pretending nothing was wrong. She didn't scream. She didn't accuse. She simply packed her things, looked at me with eyes full of sadness and love, and walked out of my life. I let her go because I didn't know how to stop her without admitting I was broken. Time passed. Day followed day. Seasons changed. I moved apartments. I changed jobs. But no matter how much daylight filled my rooms, there was always a shadow where Celine used to be. That night, the one that began past midnight, had been unremarkable. I had fallen asleep with the window cracked open, the city breathing softly outside. When the sound came, it pulled me back into a reality I thought I'd left behind. I sat up slowly, my body heavy, my mind racing. The door was open just a little, enough for the hallway light to spill in, and there she stood. Celine looked older, thinner, like life had asked more of her than it used to, but her eyes were the same, unmistakable, full of unshed tears and cautious hope. She didn't step forward, she didn't explain, she just stood there whispering my name like it was a question she wasn't sure I still wanted to answer. The next moments felt unreal, like time had folded in on itself. I didn't rush to her, I didn't pull her into my arms. I simply sat there, stunned, as 1,000 emotions collided inside me. Fear, longing, guilt, love. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, reminding me that this moment was happening whether I was ready or not. She told me she hadn't planned to come, that she'd been in the neighborhood earlier that day, sunlight glinting off the streets, memories tugging at her with every step. She said she'd stood outside the building for hours, telling herself to leave. But when night fell, she realized she couldn't carry what she was holding anymore. Celine's life after leaving me hadn't been easy. She spoke of jobs that drained her, relationships that never felt safe, mornings where she woke up feeling lost. She said she had spent years blaming herself, wondering if she had given up too soon. And then, quietly, she admitted something that shook me to my core. She said she had never stopped loving me, but she had finally learned to love herself enough to face the past. As dawn crept closer, the darkness softened. We sat across from each other as the first hints of morning light slipped into the room. The city woke up outside, unaware that two broken people were slowly stitching themselves back together. She told me she wasn't there to demand anything. She didn't want promises or guarantees. She just wanted honesty, even if it hurt. That was the hardest part. Facing myself in the clear light of day. I told her about my father, about how his death had hollowed me out, how I had been terrified of leaning on her because I was afraid she'd see how weak I felt. I told her I thought love meant protecting the other person from your darkness, not realizing that shutting her out had hurt her more than my pain ever could. The sun rose fully then, filling the room with warmth. Daylight revealed lines on our faces, evidence of years lived apart. It also revealed something else, acceptance, not forgiveness yet, not reconciliation, but the possibility of understanding. Celine listened without interrupting, tears slipping down her cheeks as I finally gave voice to everything I had buried. When she stood to leave, it felt like history threatening to repeat itself. But this time, something was different. I wasn't frozen. I wasn't silent. I told her I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I didn't want to keep running from the truth. I told her I was willing to try, not to return to what we were, but to discover what we could become with honesty and daylight, instead of shadows. She smiled then, a small, fragile smile, and nodded. She said that was all she needed to hear. Not a promise of forever, but proof that I had finally opened the door from the inside. In the weeks that followed, our lives began to overlap again, cautiously, intentionally. We met during the day, walking through parks, sitting in cafes where sunlight streamed through wide windows. We talked about everything we had avoided before, fears, boundaries, hopes. Some days were heavy, others felt light in ways I hadn't experienced in years. Healing wasn't fast or neat, but it was real. I learned that second chances aren't about erasing the past. They're about acknowledging it and choosing to move forward anyway. Celine didn't save me, I didn't save her. We simply stopped hiding from ourselves and allowed kindness to lead where fear once ruled. Now, when I wake up in the morning and sunlight fills my apartment, it feels different. Warmer, fuller. The emptiness hasn't vanished entirely, but it no longer controls me. It reminds me of how far I've come and how easily everything could have stayed broken if I had kept the door closed. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in healing, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness. Your engagement helps these stories reach the people who need them most. And before this story ends, I have one small special request. Please comment below with the word hope if you believe people can change, heal, and find their way back to kindness, even after years of silence. Because sometimes it's past midnight when the door opens. And sometimes it's daylight that finally shows us who we are brave enough to become.